Hey, what's going on guys? Today we're going to do a side-by-side comparison of 7900 XTX versus 4090 in Helldivers 2. The focus will be on 4K native for the first half of the video, and second half will be 4K quality render scale. We're going to begin with the settings first. So this is our 7900 XTX, as you can see in the menu, and we're running the game at 4K native with all the graphical settings maxed out. And this is our RTX 4090 settings, as you can see in the menu here. Also 4K native with all the graphical settings maxed out. Before we go any further, I'd like to explain how I do these benchmarks. Essentially, I record about 10 minutes of gameplay, try to play the same area, and then at the end of that 10 minutes, I compare the averages and 1% lows. So basically, I begin to record the metrics at the beginning of the gameplay, and then at the very end, we compare. In its current state, with the current drivers, Helldivers 2 seems to run a lot better on Nvidia, based off my own experience. So if we look at the metrics and compare them, the RTX 4090 is 66% faster on the averages and 66% faster on the 1% lows. Once we check out quality render scale in the second half of this video, so in a couple minutes, you will see that the 7900 XTX will actually close the gap a little, but it's not because of the reasons you might think. This gap in performance between the two GPUs is actually very unusual, because normally the 4090 is around 30% faster on average. It can be a little more than that or a little bit less than that. And in a couple games, the 7900 XTX can come actually rather close to the 4090, which is not bad for a GPU that costs half the money. But in this game, it seems to be double the usual amount, and that's very unusual. I've only seen this in a couple other games, or if it's something that has heavy ray tracing or something like that. So I don't know if maybe AMD can release some drivers and improve the performance a bit. But that said, it's not like the performance is bad, because it's not. Actually, the 1% lows and frame times are excellent in this game, some of the best I've ever seen on both AMD and Nvidia. Now, if we put the unusual gap in performance aside, there's another more pressing issue that is not really AMD's fault, but people with RX 7000 GPUs are experiencing more crashes than in other GPUs based off what I've seen and people in my comment sections talking about it and my own personal experience. I've had a few crashes on the XTX, and on the 4090 I haven't had a single crash, and I've played for hours. But I've also been looking at the Steam forums, and there's people with 4090s that claim to have had crashes as well. People with 3080s, people with 2080 Ti's. So yeah, I don't know, but there is definitely more crashing happening with RX 7000 GPUs. It's not driver or anything like that, it's just the game crashes the desktop. And that's as of right now. The developers are aware of it, and I'm sure they're gonna fix it. So by the time you watch this video, maybe it's been fixed, and I hope it has been, because the game is really good. The performance, even though there is an unusual gap between the two brands, actually runs really well. The 1% lows are excellent. Now we're gonna check out quality render scale. And this is our RX 7900 XTX settings. As you can see, we put render scale to quality. So there is an ultra quality setting as well. And this is our RTX 4090, and we've also set it to quality. I think this type of scaling that they're using in this game might actually be FSR 1. I can't say that I'm 100% sure, but I mean, those type of settings, ultra performance, balance, quality, and ultra quality, those are the type of settings that FSR 1 had. It did have an ultra quality setting. But I've also seen FSR 2 have that as well in some games. I just say I think it's FSR 1 because I noticed that the visuals degraded a bit. Even at 4K, when I set it to quality, I noticed that there was more aliasing. So that's kind of what makes me think that it could be FSR 1. But I could be wrong, so I don't know. Now, if we look at the performance differences here, the gap is actually closed a little. With the render scale set to quality, the 4090 is 50% faster on the averages and 43% faster on the 1% lows. On 4K native, the 4090 was 66% faster on both averages and 1% lows. So now it's kind of fallen back a little bit on the averages and even lower on the 1% lows. Now, I think this is, well, we know for a fact that we are CPU bound on the 4090 side. You can see the GPU utilization is in the low 90s, so it's not maxing out. So obviously that is not an issue for the 7900 XTX because we know the 7800X 3D is good for at least 150 FPS that we're getting right now on the 4090. So of course that gap is now going to close because the 4090 cannot be fully utilized. However, on the 1% lows, we fall, whereas previously we were evenly ahead on both averages and 1% lows, we've actually fallen behind a little bit more on the 1% lows on the 4090 side. And this could also be because we are running in a CPU bound scenario. If you run in a CPU bound scenario, it actually harms your 1% lows. That's why in this case it would be best to use an FPS cap to get a smoother gaming experience. Although the game runs extremely smooth, right? We have 123 FPS for 1% lows. It's very smooth. But personally, I would prefer to use an FPS cap. As a matter of fact, I would probably end up using an FPS cap on the 7900 XTX as well. I would probably lock it to 90. As a matter of fact, if you want the smoothest gaming experience, lock it to whatever your 1% lows are, and it'll be consistently smooth. That is just a personal preference of mine though. But I have noticed that when you run in CPU bound, your 1% lows suffer because of it, more than they would if you wasn't CPU bound. So with that said, I just wanted to make a quick video comparing these two GPUs because it's something that I've been doing for quite a few games, and I wanted to do it for this one as well. And this can also act as a sort of a reference if new drivers come out. Then we can also compare them again and see if things have improved or gotten worse. But right now, the biggest, most pressing matter with Helldivers 2 is the crashing people are experiencing, which seems to happen on Nvidia and AMD as well, but especially on people with RX 7000 GPUs. So I hope that gets fixed because Helldivers 2, guys, it's awesome. You should definitely check it out, and or wait until it's been fixed if you have an RX 7000 GPU. Like I said, I've had a few of my subscribers tell me that they've experienced crashes as well, and I know that sucks when you want to play a game and it crashes because you paid for it. The game should work day one, but that's not the world we live in, unfortunately. But I think that'll be it for this video though. If you guys did like this video, give it a like and consider subscribing if you want to watch more content. I will be checking out the 3080 Ti as well, and maybe do a 6800 XT versus 3080 Ti at some point as well, because I'm curious to see if this same gap is actually present on the previous generation of Nvidia and AMD GPUs as well. That would be kind of interesting to see. But anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you have a great one.